Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and you might have seen a lot of videos recently at the start of this year or the end of the last decade telling you all sorts of stuff about YouTube. And depending on which creators you watch, you've probably seen stuff when it comes to like Kappa, or particularly in the Fish fam, we've seen some creators step away that we might not have expected. The biggest example might be Jenny from Solid Gold, right? Last I'd heard, she was selling off her home that she lived in. They were selling. She was selling off a large amount of her stuff that was in her big like fish building out back. So I wanted to kind of talk about what is the truth about YouTube, especially from the perspective of someone like me, a small creator. You know, unlike say Aquarium Co-op Corey, I'm not a store. I don't have a business on the side that can afford to basically pay for YouTube in order to use it as a, marketing tool or an education tool. A lot of different things like Corey does, which, he does a phenomenal job making YouTube a part of his business in more than just like buy my stuff, right? He does a lot of really cool stuff and gives us an opportunity to see so many different things about the fish hobby that we might not have ever seen if it were not for his business being tied so closely to his YouTube channel. But for us small creators, it's way different. And you'll notice an example, like over time, you can look back farther on my channel. Before AGA, I was using my cell phone, and I decided at AGA I was going to make an investment in my channel. And it was certainly not something my channel could afford if it was just the money I made on YouTube, because we're in January now, and I think like my last video made $1.50. It's like, and the time spent doing that was and it was just me talking. Keep that in mind. So the edits are really minimal. I'm not doing music or B-roll. I still think it took me like 3 hours of work to get everything done beyond just me babbling. So there's me talking at first, which was like an hour of total stuff that got chopped and things like that. And then another 3 hours of work getting it done. Not to mention equipment, right? So it's not something that you do to make money. It's usually something we do as a hobby. But YouTube is changing, and there's a lot of things I think for maybe you are thinking about starting a YouTube channel and you're wondering how to be successful. I would certainly not consider myself a successful YouTuber, and that is just because I've seen plenty of other YouTubers do way better, way faster. But I enjoy what I do, and that's all that matters to me. This is my hobby. As much as aquariums and this tank behind me is my hobby, YouTube is the other part of my hobby. But there's a lot of things that I think is relevant to you folks, especially if you've ever thought about building a YouTube channel, or maybe more importantly, you just wonder, like, for those folks out there that we think are the good YouTubers or have some kind of notoriety, what are they looking at? On this, keep in mind, I will talk very minimally about the money side of YouTube, but any YouTube channel that ever wants to get monetized is doing it with the hope of being able to make money. Now, in my case, it's like, can I make just enough to afford like an equipment upgrade to make stuff better so I can make better content? Cool. But now that I think about it, in the entire time my channel's been monetized, I have not even made enough to pay for my camera. So this camera that I'm shooting on, which is nice but is not super expensive, it's a Sony a6400, and the lens that's attached to it is I think $400, but it's really nice for the low end, inexpensive lenses. I don't think my channel has made that much money. The total of those the whole time it's been monetized. So you can figure this out, that like it is hard to make a living, especially on YouTube, but pay for some of the expensive parts that help up your game. Now, granted, a good cell phone can go a long way. I have a Pixel 2. it will do quite a lot, but I wanted something better because I used to work in radio, and I'm so used to, I guess, when I really dive into something, I want a level of quality, and so I made that decision knowing that like it costs more than I'm ever going to make in a year or two probably doing YouTube. But let's talk about some of the hard things. Number one, if you're a YouTube creator, and you're a small creator especially, even people that have 30 or 40,000 subscribers, they're all still small subscribers. Until you hit like 100,000, you really are truly a small creator. And even at 100,000, compared to some of the big boys out there and some of the other industries, you're a tiny fish in a very large pond. The thing about YouTube is that the more YouTube is going, the more popular it becomes. There's a recent statistic that came out that in current day school kids, in elementary through middle school, so it's like ages, I think, 8 to 13 or 14 is what this poll had done. 30% of them wanted to be YouTubers. 30%. If you think about it, that's a lot. When I was a kid, 30% of people wanted to be an astronaut or, a fireman. Like, we had these things that didn't involve social media because social media didn't exist. But now 30% of children, and this was a pretty large poll, it was something like 20,000 people surveyed, wanted to be YouTubers. And part of that is that the longer YouTube exists and social media platforms in general, this applies to like Twitch for live streaming, Instagram, all that kind of stuff, the more and more creators there become, and the eyeballs out there for the number of hours consuming content versus the number of hours of content being created shift. There are more creators, and as more and more creators happen, there are less of those people watching content, not by a lot, but in the case of YouTube, it's not as extreme, but there are more people creating content with less of the people watching it. So what does that mean for you or me, us small YouTubers? Maybe you haven't even started yet and you're thinking about starting a channel. You are going to have to compete. Plain and simple. You have to bring something to the table, whether it is education or entertainment or something completely different. A great example, Tank Tested and Swisky, so Jimmy, the editor at Aquarium Co-op, they bring beautiful cinematic footage. Not a lot of channels do that, and that is something that they do that is different, and it brings them eyeballs and attention. But even Tank Tested recently said that he was kind of changing some of the things he's doing because he laid it out very cleanly to folks. He's a documentary filmmaker by profession, and he makes something like 50 cents an hour doing his YouTube work because he is a perfectionist, and he works very heavily on it. So for those of us who are small creators, and you might think like, well, that guy has huge videos. Yes. That's this game. What is important to know is that you have to be able to bring something that is different. I feel fortunate in that something I consider to be fun helps educate other folks. Folks like you watching right now. I get an opportunity to take my knowledge, create a video surrounding each little facet of it, and put that out there so that more and more people can learn. And whether that's the way that I approach testing equipment, because I work as a software test engineer and I test software and hardware for a living, or whether that is about plants because I love planted aquariums, and not in the aquascaping form, but in the just the live plants with fish and creating these little ecospheres. I love that feeling. I love that part of the hobby, and my knowledge and understanding when it comes to plants is something that I enjoy passing on to you. Or maybe it's rainbow fish, because I love me some rainbow fish. That's what's unique for me. Those are the things that I do that fortunately are the things I enjoy the most. So, hey, that makes it a lot easier. But for you, you're going to have to figure out something is different, because in the end, there are only so many people who can watch for so much time. I cannot tell you how many times I have thanked the folks watching for their time, because time is precious. I understand that better than most people, because I work a ton and I have so little time for free time that when I get it, that thing better be dang important to me to get that kind of time from me. So you are fighting for people's time. That's a hard thing to do. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's the hardest part. From there's all sorts of skills you need to learn. How to compose a relatively decent shot, how to speak, how to edit, how to convey information cleanly and clearly. This is all part of YouTube that not everybody does well. Most of the folks who've gotten to a certain level of success do very, very well, but not everyone does. I'll give you an example. Like, one of the best people I think at presenting information is someone like Jason from Primetime Aquatics. He does a very, very good job of presenting information cleanly and clearly. So does a gamer's wife, Irene. She does a phenomenal job of presenting information, but not everyone does. I am extremely long-winded. We know this. It's probably the worst part about how I do videos, in that they're not these like super cut down, clean, fast edited videos. But again, I do this as a hobby. So I care a little less about that part, because I love giving detail. But that is something that you will need to focus on. Taking your thoughts and your ideas and presenting them cleanly and clearly. A video that is 10 to 15 minutes will get more attention than a video that is 20 minutes, than a video that is 25 minutes, than a 2-hour live stream. Yeah, live streams can be really cool. They're very fun experiences. But when it comes to being successful on YouTube, most people do not go back and rewatch a live stream. But a 20-minute video, a 15-minute video, a 10-minute video, especially from 2 years ago, can still get a lot of attention, but a live stream from 3 weeks ago will not. So this is another thing you need to consider. What type of content are you producing? Not just what unique portion are you bringing to the fish fam or to the YouTube sphere compared to other YouTubers that do the same kind of content, but how are you presenting it? Is it presented as live streams all the time? It's really hard to grow on those. You can, but those tend to be the hardest to grow on. They're all about the captive audience right now, and not, what about that person who just finds my channel? Are they going to go back and watch all the old stuff? Not in a live stream, but in videos they will. It's more common to go back and look at, oh, I looked up the Fluval 3.0. Oh, this guy Bentley has like 3 different videos on the Fluval 3.0. Let me watch all of them. But if it's a live stream, you're probably only going to watch the most recent one. There's lots of traps in YouTube, especially for fish. Some people will find that like every time you get a new thing, it creates more views. And you can find yourself in this cycle where you always have to have something new. Always, always, always. Must be new, must be new, must be new. New fish, new crazy thing. I've been looking for this for 6 years. Blah, 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 blah. That becomes very expensive. And if your goal in YouTube is to either make it fun and relatively cost efficient, or to make money, you can't have a high cost all the time. Otherwise, the first several years, you're just going to run out of the ability to afford it any further. And if you can't afford it any further, like some of the other people on YouTube, you might not want to do content anymore, because you'll realize, this is costing me so much money. You know, it's not just gear to shoot with. I mean, I'm doing this at night. You can see I've got a light over here. You can see the reflection. Ooh. You can see here, see in the shadow. But more importantly, if we look, like no reflection here, reflection here, right? I have to get a light in order to properly light things, and you know that had a cost. My camera had a cost. When I put up a new tank, I do those for me, so thankfully that doesn't have a cost as far as like YouTube is concerned. I do those for myself, but you guys have seen my tanks don't really change very much. It's only if I can find ways to get space for a new one, or I trade out like a couple of tanks for one bigger tank. That's when my tanks change, but beyond that, there aren't really like constantly new fish or constantly reaquascaping because that costs quite a lot of money. Now, there are channels, of course, that are out there that can do that because they're sponsored. But in the fish hobby, let me talk to you about sponsorships. They're few and far between. More importantly, they tend to be, hey, we'll send you this product. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had, typically Chinese companies, but sometimes not, on Amazon send me a message about, hey, would you like to get one of our products for free off of Amazon if you'll do a video and give us a review on Amazon? And it's always something that doesn't necessarily fit anything I do, is not a very expensive product. They want to give me a $15 light to do 10 hours of work. Think about that for a second. They basically want to pay $1.50 an hour. Is that worth it? Maybe for you. But I would say if anyone's time is worth more than that. If you were to go to a job and work, would you make more in 1 hour than that light is worth? Probably. The bigger companies don't really sponsor anyone because they don't need to. It's really rare for a large company to sponsor anybody, and when it is, it's very rarely paid. Typically, it's product provided. Like a great example, recently I've had a lot of product provided to me to test out and play with and give feedback on from Brightwater. There it's all, aquarium filter media and stuff like that, and I'm doing it because I'm interested. And they provided me a bunch of free product, and it is a technically not sponsored. I think if you look at the legalities, because I'm not being paid, but I say they are just for the FTC, the evil FTC, right? But, things like that are sometimes common, but very rare. Or you'll get something like, oh, we have this new food that just came out. We'll send you one little sample pack of it. Will you do a review? But have you really tested it thoroughly? Things like this are like the few sponsorships that happen. You very rarely, more accurately, you don't often see a sponsorship that pays any amount of money until you're really huge. And even then, Corey has even stated, like, he's a very large channel in the grand scheme of things for fish. And yet, he's talked about how it's been very, very hard to get the companies to do anything other than provide a little bit of product, because they know that he can sell a lot of product if they provide a few. And he talks about them positively. But to, sponsor the things that he thinks impact us the most, like some of those trips to China or that trip to Israel, things like that, where you get to see these crazy fish farms and how different the aquarium hobby is in other parts of the world, that doesn't very rarely get sponsored. And when it does, you have to be a very large channel like Corey for it to happen. So if the hope is, I'll get monetized and I can get a sponsorship, don't count on that, because that won't happen. I'm just being honest with you. I have had, just transparency for you as a small YouTuber, I've had absolutely no one offer to pay me for any videos. I've been offered some free product, and almost every time I've turned it down, with the exception of Brightwater. Brightwater's the only one where I've been given a free product specifically to test. But part of that was because of my career background and not because of YouTube. But if I was willing to talk about it on YouTube, they were basically willing to let me try out any product I wanted, because they're just looking to spread a little bit of word about their company. And given that they're in Washington, I like helping out a local company. But beyond that, your best bet when it comes to that kind of things is an affiliate link, and that usually means Amazon. Now, the truth behind that is the FTC guidelines change every day. Some of the best content out there for a while was targeted toward children, and now you can't do that. You will, every chance you had to get seen, to get promoted, to get revenue is gone. The ads already don't pay very well. Like I've said, I did a video last week. I think it's made about $1.50, and a bulk of my revenue in any given video, and this is something you should note for YouTube, a bulk of the revenue you're going to make is in the first 48 hours of a video being out. Maybe a week, depending on how your audience is. Mine's typically a week. But most of it is in the first 48 hours. Like 75% in the first 48, 25% of the remaining comes from the next week. And then after that, very, very few views in any given video. They don't keep getting enough to where it would like makes money. I have to put this in quotation marks because it's just the way it is. So the truth about YouTube is this. You have to do it because you love it. This has to be something you want to do. If your goal is to do YouTube for 6 months and then after that you'll be making money, you'll be monetized. Your goal is that all I have to do is get to 1,000 subscribers and I can get monetized. And then I'll make money doing YouTube and it can be a job. No. I hate to break it to you, but no. It won't be like that. There are plenty of channels out there that are significantly larger than mine. And they will still only get so many views in a month. And that's where all your revenue comes from. If you're not a side business of some other form. And it's not enough to make a living. You can look, there's lots of tools out there. Social Blade is a great example where you can look at somebody's channel and it will give you an estimate. Recently, Joel Corvus Oskin talked about Social Blade in one of his streams and talked about how accurate some of the information was. Which is to say, it was accurate. That's the truth about YouTube. So for those of you who want to be a creator, and I know this is not a fish video, but it really is for us because the fish hobby is so niche, right? It's so special, and a lot of us think, I have something I can offer. I have something I can teach people. Yes, you can. But it's a big fight in order to get people to see it. So if you want to do YouTube as a creator, from one tiny creator to another, let me give you this piece of advice. If your goal is to do YouTube to make money, don't do YouTube. If your goal is to do YouTube because you want to have fun, you want to be able to teach people the things you know, and hopefully one day that'll lead to 1,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, and you know that it will take you years of work, then do YouTube. Be ready to do years of work, because there are going to be people out there, like the best example might be Green Aqua. Here are guys who used to professionally work in TV. Balash was a part of making like Michael Jackson music videos and the Olympics, right? He did TV for the Olympics. And now he makes videos on YouTube as a part of his business. And you could instantly see the quality. And it's incredible. The quality of the content is incredible. But he was a true professional in that industry. And he works many, many hard hours to make sure that that polished, professional-looking content comes to you. And there's a reason that channel grew very, very fast. But the gear required to do that, and the knowledge and expertise required to do that, is something that was the accumulation of over a decade of work before that YouTube ever started. And more than that, building their business and getting Green Aqua to a place where they could go, we can do a YouTube channel. We can make this thing happen and use it to further the hobby through our business and make more and more awareness of our business. That's where channels grow fast. You and me, we got to do it the slow, hard way because we got to catch up. We don't have that decade of experience. We have to figure that out. Slowly, we'll find ways to make upgrades, but you have to be willing to put in that time. And if you're not willing to put in that time, I would not look to YouTube. There are going to be creators that we thought were very successful that might go away soon because they've given it a hard try for a certain number of years and they're probably not doing as well as they thought. There are others, like me, who are looking at expanding beyond YouTube, doing things that can impact the hobby, leave our mark, help our audiences in ways that we can't do with just YouTube. If you're willing to be that kind of person, by all means, welcome to the family. That's it, guys. That's the truth about FishTube, YouTube, from a small creator. I know this is really different and this is really weird, but I wanted to do this because I've seen a lot of stuff lately, and as someone who approaches YouTube as a hobby, and yes, I have a business license because from the legal purposes of my state, I have to, after I've made, I think it's $400 in a year. It's not much, but I have to, right? This is a tax nonsense I don't want to deal with. But from a small YouTuber who has done this for 2 years, and in 2 years I'm to, a little over 5,000 subscribers. That's a lot of work for something that I thoroughly enjoy. But it's only worth it because I enjoy it. Because I love the opportunity to interact with you folks. I love the opportunity to teach. And most recently, you've given me the opportunity to do something bigger and more interesting. And in that regard, I thank you. So, if you've enjoyed this spot of truth, maybe give it a little like. If you are upset that I haven't talked about a fish tank in 2 weekly videos in a row other than our Tank of the Weeks, you can go ahead and hit the thumbs down twice. I'll understand. You're my truest fan, the ones that always hit the dislike button. I know. I missed you too. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome.